Hi everyone, welcome. So today is Q&A day. Y'all know I love answering your questions. I love getting your questions. But before we get into the questions, there's a couple things I want to address. Okay? It is DV lottery season. So if you are qualified to enter the lottery, make sure that you are going in and entering the lottery. There's only like a few countries that are not on the list anymore. And if your country is on the list, enter the lottery. If your country is not on the list, but your spouse's country is on the list, enter the lottery. Okay. So that's first of all. And actually, before I get into this, hi, Prince. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. If you are joining me live, make sure that you say hi. And if you have questions, put them in the comments. Okay. That's what today is all about. I'm here to answer your questions. So make sure that you are asking me your questions. If you watch this on the replay and you have a question, go ahead and ask me in the comments so that I can respond to your question and make sure that I'm covering your question in my next Q&A sessions. Okay. So DV Lottery is open. It ends next month. Please, please, please make sure that you are entering the lottery if you qualify. I will always plug the lottery because that's how I ended up in the US. So I love it. It's one of those things that can literally change a whole family's life. So make sure that you are entering the lottery. Now, let's give some warnings about the lottery. Make sure that once you enter your information, you submit your information. If you get a confirmation number, you are done. Okay? Stop there. Write down your confirmation number. Make sure you keep your confirmation number because you're going to need that to check if you won the lottery. So make sure you keep your confirmation number. But once you have that confirmation number, do not, I repeat, do not go back in there and enter a second time or a third time. Okay? You can only enter the lottery once. Now, if you put in all your information and you hit submit and it never actually went through, you did not get a confirmation number, right? You did not get anything saying that your application has been submitted. You are then allowed to go ahead and do the whole process all over again. Okay? Do not do that if you got a confirmation number. Write down your confirmation number. Keep your confirmation number for when the results come out so you can check it. But do not enter more than once you get that confirmation number. Because what happens is if the system sees your information more than once, they're going to delete every single time you show up. So they don't just delete the duplicate, they delete everything. So it will be as if you never entered the lottery to start with. So make sure you're only entering once. And then make sure, please, make sure that you are including all of your children, all of them, even if you do not plan on traveling with them, because it can get expensive to travel with the whole family. But make sure you are including all of your children. I have seen this bite people once they get to the US and want to apply for citizenship. It can really put your green card in jeopardy if you do this section wrong. So make sure you are including all of your children. If you're married, make sure you're including your spouse. So how can this affect you? Once you get your green card and now you want to file for your kids and you're going to apply for citizenship, right? On your citizenship application, you go and list all your children. Guess what's going to happen? Not only will your citizenship application be denied, but USCIS has the right to now put you in immigration court proceedings to try and take away your green card. Okay? So please make sure you're putting your children so that you can avoid this issue that a lot of people have. We've been able to solve it for some cases, and then for other cases, we just are not able to. Okay? Because they just did not have a reason for not including their children. So please, okay? Make sure you're including all your children, regardless of if they live with you, regardless of how old they are. regardless of if you plan on them ever coming to the US. Does not matter. Does not matter. Make sure you're listing them, because if you do not list them and you get to your interview and the officer finds out that you did not list them when you entered the lottery, you're not getting that visa. So even though you were selected, you still have to go through a visa interview with an officer, and that officer can deny your visa at that interview if they find out that you have children, because that's how the law is written. If you fail to include your children or your spouse, the officer has the right to deny your visa even if you get selected for the lottery. So always want to cover that, because I have seen a lot of people when they go to apply for citizenship have this issue and end up in immigration court fighting to keep their green card. So please, don't be one of them. Don't be one of them. Plan ahead. All right, so Q&A. If you have questions, put them in the comment. Prince, I see your question and I'm going to get to it. All right. Please, are educational documents or certificates a requirement for family-based immigrant like IR2 or F1 during the interview? No. So when you're going for a family-based immigration process, the issue is your relationship, right? The officer wants to make sure that you have the relationship that you say you have. That's really the key. Whether you have went to school, whether you have any certificates or anything like that is not a factor, okay? It is not a factor. They just want to make sure that you have the relationship that you say you have and that you meet the requirements for a visa. Okay, if you put on your visa application that you went to certain schools and you have certain degrees, it may be helpful to take those documents with you in case the officer just wants to confirm that you actually do have those degrees and all of that. But will the officer deny your application if you never went to any sort of school, you never graduated from anything? No, they will not. I have done this visa application process for people in their 80s that never went to school, and they were still able to get it. So your education level when you're filing for family-based immigration does not matter, okay? You don't have to prove your education level in order to qualify. So keep that in mind. All right. So if you have any other questions, if you're joining me and you have questions, please put them in the comments. This Q&A is literally for you, okay? It is for you to get information. It is for you to ask me questions, all right? All right, so what I am going to do is people have been asking me questions, okay? If I'm being honest, people ask me questions a lot, and in this live, I'm going to be answering some of those questions because some of you out there have the same exact questions, but you don't feel comfortable asking it here. So don't be scared, okay? Don't be scared. We're here to help you. I'm here to help you. So ask me questions, and then we're going to get into it. One question that I get a lot, and I understand why I get it a lot, is people want to know what's going on with the parole in place. Okay, what's going on with that? Can I still apply for it? Yes, you can still apply for parole in place. It's just because of the court case that is currently going on, right? Because of the court case that is currently going on, USCIS is not able to approve your case, okay? So USCIS can accept your application. They can go ahead and, so they can accept your application. They can review your application. They can send you to go get your fingerprints done. They can do everything that's required to get the case done, except the only thing they cannot do is approve the case. They're allowed to deny the case if they don't think you qualify, but they're not allowed to approve it. As of today, the next court hearing is next month. Okay, it is in November, so make sure that if you qualify that you're applying, because the way I look at it is this, right? If you enter the US without documentation, you've been in the US for 10 years, you've been married to your spouse since June of 2024, right? Before June 2024, you qualify for this, right? You should be applying for it. And what's going to happen with the court case is one of three things. One, the court can say, USCIS, go ahead, approve cases, move forward with this process. The second thing that could happen is the court can say, hey, USCIS, you cannot take new cases, but the ones that is already filed, you can go ahead and approve those if they qualify. And then the third thing that could happen is the court can say, USCIS, you need to shut down this whole program. You cannot approve any cases. Now, the first and second are great. Obviously, we want the first one, right? We want the first possibility where the program gets to live on. But if it's the second one and your application is not in, you are cut out from this parole. Okay, so that's why I tell people, if you qualify for it, make sure you're applying before that final hearing, before the judge makes a decision, because once they make the decision and they say, and they choose that second option, you can approve the ones you already have, and you didn't have your application in, you are now out of luck. So make sure that you are doing that. All right, so follow-up question from Prince. I do have my high school certificate, but I wasn't planning on bringing it to the interview. I just wanted to confirm. Yeah, you don't have to, because it's not based on your eligibility, right? It's not based on whether you went to school or not. It's not based on any of that. It's based on your relationship and you meeting the requirements that the US government has as far as security, backgrounds, and all of that to qualify for a visa to the US. So just keep that in mind. All right, so I have a question from Instagram. Smiley is asking, my spouse interviewed at the Saudi Arabia embassy and received a 221G. After submitting the documents, do we wait for an appointment or do I make an appointment on ACS system? So it depends. Typically on the 221G, the officer will tell you exactly how they want you to submit the documentation. It sounds like you already submitted the documentation. Typically, if the officer wants a second interview, they will let you know. But 9 times out of 10, they're not going to want to schedule a second interview. So you typically only get one interview with the embassy. If they need additional documentation, they will ask it. They will ask you for it on that 221G letter, and also tell you how to submit it to them. Once you submit it, you just have to wait for them to make a decision. That is the hardest part, is the waiting for them to make a decision, because it can take them a month and it can take them a couple years. So it's really important that if there is a reason to expedite your case, right, to expedite your husband's case, make sure you're requesting that expedite with the embassy. Okay. Sometimes they put it as administrative processing when it's in administrative processing, which is just, ooh, I hate when they do that, because there is no timeline once they put it in administrative processing. It's just whenever they finish their background checks, right? So just make sure you already submitted the documents the way they want you to submit it. And then if there's a reason to expedite your case, make sure you are requesting that expedite with the embassy. And you can, if it's been a few months since you submitted the documents and they are still asking you for information, then go ahead and request congressional assistance. Now, follow up. On the system, it is now ready instead of refused. That is good. That means they have received it. Ready does not mean schedule an interview. So since he has already had an interview, ready does not mean schedule an interview. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but that's not what it means. Okay? So that's the first thing. It just means it's ready for an officer to make a decision, right? To review the case. But it's a good thing when it goes from refused to ready. Okay? It's a good thing. It's a good thing. So that means they most likely have what they need to make a decision. So just patience. I know it's so hard. It's so easy for me to say, oh, just have some patience when you are the one going through this process. Because I know when me and my family were going through the immigration process, we were not patient. Okay. So it was hard to be patient when it's like years and years and years and things are not moving. But all I can tell you is when it goes from refused to ready, that's a good thing. All right. All right. So if you are joining me live and you have a question about U.S. immigration, please feel free to ask me in the comments. I am literally here to answer your questions. Smiley, should I cancel the appointment I made with ACS system? It depends on what appointment you made. If you made a 221G appointment, that's fine, right? If you made an interview appointment, that's a different case altogether. But if you made a 221G appointment, you can keep it. He can go and ask questions. And that's really all he can do, right? Since he already submitted the documents the way it was requested. All right. So questions, put them in the comments. While I wait for your questions, like I said, I'll be answering the questions I received ahead of time because they matter. So when you leave me comments, when you send me a DM with your questions, I do respond to you. Okay, I do respond to you. It may not be instantaneous because, I am a working lawyer. Right? I always have to remind people of that. It's like I am a working lawyer. I do have cases that I have interviews for and things like that. So I can't really, just be on here answering questions all day, but I do get to them. All right. Okay. So someone is asking, does it mean I will need to pay? So I did a video on basically the benefits of including your work permit and travel permit application with your green card application, right? What are the benefits of that? Your work permit will most likely be processed faster than your green card application, and that way you're able to get a social security number and start working. With the travel permit, once that is approved, if it's approved before your green card, that means you are able to travel outside of the US and be able to legally come back to the US without putting your green card application in jeopardy. Okay, so this person is asking, does it mean I will need to pay for only the form I-485 and I do not need to pay for the I-765, which is the work permit, and the I-131, which is the travel permit? Here's the thing. Before April 1st, 2024, you did not have to pay a separate fee for the travel permit or the work permit. Okay, but as of April 1st, when you are filing your green card application, that form I-485, when you're filing that, not only do you have to pay the fee for that form, you also need to pay the fee for the travel permit and the work permit if you want to include those. So the fee for the travel permit is $630, and then the fee for the work permit when it's filed with the green card application is $260. So Really important to know that now there is a fee if you send those forms in without the fee, especially when you're filing based on marriage. So for VAWA cases, completely different. So if you're filing your green card application based on your spouse sponsoring you, based on your child sponsoring you, you need to pay a fee for each of those forms. If you're filing based on VAWA, right, you are the abused spouse, parent, or child of a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, and you're filing your green card application, you can include the work permit and the travel permit for free. Okay, there is now no fee as of April 1st. There's no fee for the green card application, the work permit, or the travel permit when you are filing based on VAWA. So, always want to mention that because people really may want to travel or they want to work while their application is pending. You just need to know that now there's a fee. There's an additional fee for it. So don't be surprised when you file it without the fees and it's sent back to you and you have to do it all over again. Okay. All right. So next question. Can I travel outside of the US while waiting for my green card? I have a 1-year visa. Can I re-enter the US in same visa? Okay, so this person came into the US with an immigrant visa, okay? The immigrant visa is the one that leads to a green card. A non-immigrant visa is for a temporary visit or a temporary work in the US, right? Depending on the type of visa. If you have an immigrant visa and you enter the US before your card, your actual permanent resident card is sent to you, if you need to travel outside of the US, just know you have the ability to do that, because once you come in and you have your passport stamped with your entry, if you look at the very bottom of your visa, it will say that this will serve as proof of your residency for 1 year. Okay? It will say that at the very bottom of your visa. Is once you enter, and this is stamped, it will serve as proof of your residency for 1 year. So while you're waiting for your card to be printed and mailed to you after you've paid USCIS their fee to print that for you, if you need to travel, you have that. If you need to work and you want to make sure that you have your proof of your status so that you can start working, that also does that. So make sure that you do not lose your passport. Okay, at least don't lose it before you get your card, because if you lose the passport and you don't have the card yet, you will not have any proof of your status. Okay, just please make sure you keep those safe. All right, so I see a question here. My aunt jointly filed I-751. It was approved due to a battery waiver. Okay, she requested at the interview, but it didn't specify the basis of the approval, like indicate section 216C4C. Why though? It typically doesn't, right? Once it's approved, it's approved. And if it's approved, if you ask for a waiver, it's most likely approved under that waiver. All right, so it's not a problem. I know you wanted to say like specifically what section. It is not a problem. Okay, the officer most likely updated it on their side to say that it is now a waiver application, and once they approve it, they are approving it based on the waiver. But the approval notice would not say that. Okay, so she should not freak out. If she wants to apply for citizenship, if she's met the requirements for the 3 years of citizenship, she can apply for citizenship. Okay, so just make sure that if she qualifies for citizenship, she can go ahead and do that. Do not freak out that it doesn't say a specific section on the approval notice. It typically does not. Okay, it typically does not. It will say like spouse of a U.S. citizen or something of that nature. It would not say specifically spouse of a U.S. Daughter spouse of a U.S. citizen. Does that make sense? So It is not a problem that it does not have a specific section. It just matters that it was approved. That's the most important part, is that it was approved. And if she qualifies for citizenship, she can apply for citizenship and does not have to wait for the 5 years because it was approved under the battery waiver. Okay. All right. Next question. So people have a lot of questions about what I just covered about the passport being able to travel with their visa. All right. So I see. Hi. How are you doing on Instagram? If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments, okay? I am here to answer you. All right. So this is a bit of a long one. Me, my spouse, and child are green card holders. We are in the U.S. I applied for Army and applied for citizenship during basic combat training. However, following standard procedure, my spouse and child should wait 5 years as green card holders to apply for citizenship. Could you please tell how can I expedite the citizenship process for my child and spouse? Great question. So for your spouse, there may not be a way to expedite that. But for your child, if they meet the requirements for derived citizenship, so once you become a citizen, your children that are permanent residents can get citizenship through you. So it's called derived citizenship. So once you meet the requirements for derived citizenship for your child, you can actually apply for their citizenship with the N600 form to get them a certificate of citizenship. You can also apply for a passport, a U.S. passport for them with documentation proving that you meet the requirements for derived citizenship. Okay, so just keep that in mind. It matters, right? If your child qualifies for derived citizenship, you should be applying for them to get their citizenship, all right? Their certificate of citizenship. Because children, if you do not know this, children cannot apply for naturalization. You have to be at least 18 years old before you can apply for naturalization. So if you do not know this, newsflash, okay? But for certificate of citizenship through a parent, you can do that at any age, right? They can be 1 year old, and as long as they meet the requirements, you can file for their certificate of citizenship. But if you want them to naturalize, they must be 18 years old, because when you naturalize, you are basically signing a contract with the U.S. government, and you have to be an adult, a legal adult, to enter into that. So just something I wanted to mention, because sometimes it's hard to kind of know what to do and when children are involved. Okay. All right. So what if I have a husband who is a U.S. citizen and what if I am the husband who is a U.S. citizen and my wife will have our baby a few weeks before her interview? Would my newborn automatically become a U.S. citizen? It depends. Okay. Everyone wants their children to be U.S. citizens. But if they are outside of the U.S., you may be able to do a consular report of birth abroad once the child is born, if you meet the requirements for acquired citizenship. Remember, last one we were talking about derived citizenship because the child was born before this person became a citizen. But in this situation, the child is not born yet. But once they are born, they will be born to an already U.S. citizen parent. So the child may be able to just acquire citizenship from birth, right? So the only way to do that is through a consular report of birth abroad with the embassy where the child is located. And people always mess this up. So please make sure you are following the instructions from your embassy or working with an immigration lawyer to do it, so that you do not end up missing the deadline. Your child has to be under the age of 18 to do a consular report of birth abroad. Don't wait too long now. Okay? Don't wait too long. If you meet the requirements when they were born, go ahead and file for it. Okay? Do not wait. Do not wait. Go ahead and file for it so that they can get their citizenship. Okay. So when they are given that consular report of birth abroad, it's basically like a U.S. birth certificate, right? And not only is it like a U.S. birth certificate, they can also get their U.S. passport at the same time, and they can then get a social security number as well. Again, this is all without having to be in the U.S. So that's why that's why it's so important that you do that for your child when they qualify. All right. I always, I got my citizenship through derived citizenship, not acquired citizenship, because I was already born before my father became a citizen. But I met all the requirements because I had my green card and I was in the U.S. before 18 and in his legal and physical custody. And he already had 5 years of physical presence in the U.S. before that. So I met all the requirements and was able to apply for a certificate of citizenship before I turned 18 and was able to get that. So it's really important that when you have children, that you are exploring all the options available to you to get them citizenship. Okay, it really does matter because you never know. You never know what happens in the future. All right. So Princess asking, she qualifies for N400 under the 3-year rule. She isn't living with her spouse due to the abuse. Since she has her I-751 approved based on abuse, will her legal separation affect her naturalization? No. No. Right? Because she got that based on abuse. The reason that they are separated is because the U.S. citizen spouse abused her. Right? So that is one of the only things that is allowed. That's the one of the only ways that you can apply within the 3 years if you are not currently living with your spouse. All right. So if she filed, let's say she got a divorce and filed for the I-751, the removal of conditions based on the divorce, she'll have to wait the 5 years. She would not qualify for the 3 years. But because it's based on the abuse, she qualifies under the 3 years. All right. Again, it all matters because of that I-751 and the basis of it being approved. Really important. All right. So if you have any other questions, please put them in the comments. This is going to be, so when I went live, I'm like, this is going to be a short live because I have to go to, because as a lawyer, we always do training, right? I always want to know what's the latest going on and making sure that I am on top of my game. So when you want to talk to me, when you want to meet with me about a specific immigration issue that I handle, that I am well versed and on top of all the latest on that topic. So because of that and my commitment to that, I have trainings like almost every month. I make sure that I'm getting a new training and being on top of my immigration game because that's really all I do. You'd be surprised. That's all I do is immigration. So I have to be on top of my game. So because of that, I have to now drive an hour to a training. And then I'll probably do a video in a couple months, right, on what the training was about and get y'all some new information. All right. So If you have questions, put them in the comments. I do go back and respond to those. If you like this video, if you're still here and you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button so that people know that this is a video they should check out. And if you are in a position where you want to meet with me and talk about your immigration needs and see if I can help you in any way, please go ahead and schedule a strategy session with me. All my contact information is always in the description to these videos and running on the screen. So feel free to go on my website and you can click on contact us and actually pick a date and time that works best for you for us to chat about your situation. All right. So thank y'all so much for joining me, and I will probably see you next week with more immigration topics. All right. Have a great rest of your Friday and have a great weekend. Bye.